There we go.
There we go.
All right. Feeling zen. Feeling
zen. I was going to say I feel very calm right now. Perhaps I feel zen. Actually, you know what I can probably attribute it to? My one of my sons is home, and I got a really huge hug at about kind of 11:30 Eastern, and he's very tall. And kind of, and he has always sort of he's tall and lanky in his gorilla arms, and he kind of gave me like a really big hug. And I think maybe that just, what's the physiology of that? Like one super hug can kind
there
of.
Is. Yes. Yeah. I think it's actually defined like 20 seconds, I think.
It was definitely long, and it definitely was effective. So that's really all I've ever needed in my work life, is to have, my help back home. Said nobody else ever.
There's something AI cannot replace, at least yet.
Yeah,
right? So
there was a great list, I think, in Reddit. I didn't share it in any of the links, but somebody asked ChatGPT to come up with like the top 100 things that AI can't do that are important to the human experience. And it was a great list to read. I'll find it and I'll just share it with you personally. Everybody else, if you want it, I'll find it again. But it was a really heartwarming thing to read. It was just, oh, like every other one. You're like, oh, that's true. Oh, that's true. So anyway.
That's good. Well, a big chunk that we'll get to at the end is like things that AI is replacing. So that's probably
exactly.
So, see, guys, we're trying to give you something to hold on to while we also like
seriously,
but something's never
changed.
All right.
Yeah. But let's get into it. So, 2 big acquisitions this week. I mean, I think that it's continuing. This kind of consolidation is continuing, and let's get into them. So you want to talk about the Ipsos one?
Yeah, Ipsos acquired the BVA family, which really is, really from the outside, what I see, it is consolidation, right? I mean, they're capturing more business in Europe, particularly in France. They're one of their big competitors in France, particularly. So that is a pure consolidation play. There's some capability extension there, right? BVA focuses a lot on behavioral science, as well as shelf testing, things like that, the old PRS and Vivo brand. Which Ipsos has been on a tear doing that. I mean, they've very steadily have been making these consolidation plays in different countries, and continuing to just kind of absorb that into their machine. So there'll be more coming from them and others, I think, overall. So that was cool. Same thing, Norstat with Sample Solutions, B2B. So Norstat acquires Sample Solutions for their B2B capabilities. So they continue to expand outside of just, for those who are familiar, used to be, they were just kind of the Nordics, right? As the name would indicate. They are expanding globally and become this.
I've never heard of Norstat. I was like, Norstat. That sounds like anyway, it just sounded like something hugely sort of scientific and like satellite system. So I went to it. I was like, what am I even looking at here?
Right. They're in the Nordics, so they're like the dominant sample player in Northern Europe. So cool. Private equity backed, and are just building out that overall capability as one of the next big players. So two big acquisitions.
Very
overall.
Cool. Very cool. So and what's interesting is, that we've got this focus on like kind of growing capabilities. At the same time, we're also talking about improving capabilities, right? So
good segue.
I think, yes, thank you very much. I thought really hard for 10 seconds on that one. But I was thrilled to see when you and I, do what we do, how much popped up about data quality in the last week. Because it seems like, all right, it's about damn time. Like the industry is wrangling it. Maybe we'll have to see how effective it all is. Maybe some people are saying, well, again, it's about damn time, but it shifts to in my head to like this proactive approach to it. Like, even if it's responsive, they're still doing more at the moment. So it's a good time for data quality, starting with rep data, introducing the first ever no-fly list in market research to permanently block fraudulent respondents from surveys. So very cool for them.
Very cool for the companies that are running that software. I mean, that's always been a challenge of the network effect, which exists very much in the research space, but sharing that data, no one's ever wanted to do that. It makes perfect sense for a company like Rep Data to be in the intermediary, and flagging folks and saying, no, don't get that shyster Lenny Murphy, that fraudster, who's in there trying to game the system.
You put that out there, you say those things, and then someday this transfer is going to be loaded into an LLM, and then you're going to be spit out as a fraudster. You can't say those things.
Well, technically, neither of us should be participating in surveys anyway, from a screening standpoint. But yeah, very cool. And then our friends at GRBN, the Global Research Business Network, kind of the association of associations. In GDQ, their new global online sample study. I took it. So encourage everybody else to do that as well. They're trying to understand sentiment around quality, cost, future use. So they'll put the report out. So help them, help us. Click on the link and take the survey, and give them a sense of what you're experiencing out there. It was very short. It was a relatively painless survey. So
yeah, cool. And speaking of, kind of reports, the Data Quality Co-op put out a white paper, elevating data quality through collaboration, right? So how, people are coming together for more reliable, repeatable insights. So take a look at that white paper. This could have been included in our to read later. But since it is about data quality, I figured let's pull it up and make sure people know the context. There's moving and shaking happening around data quality this week. Good stuff.
There is. Well, and similar to go back to the Rep Data, right? I mean, what Data Quality Co-op, as you would imagine, that's what they're trying to do, is to be kind of a clearinghouse, centralized clearinghouse, and tools to monitor those things. So that's great, filling a real need in the industry across all the different players. Yeah, very cool. So the white paper was the result of an internal research that they did. It's not a promotional piece. They did a study, where we're measuring what they were seeing across these different sample sources. So very interesting. And then SMR, you want to touch on that one?
Well, this one, yes. This SMR has updated their ICC, their SMR international code. It's a major revision. So we have the link here that will bring you to the website with, kind of the latest and greatest up there. Kind of showing the emphasis for both scalable and trustworthy insights. How can we move ahead? I mean, to me, this is what people turn to SMR for, is sort of this global guidance on the ethics, the integrity, the things that that only an association of that size or an organization of that size can be doing holistically across the ecosystem. So I was happy to see this one.
I was as well. I have two minds for that. I think it's challenging when there's no teeth. But as an aspirational goal, a code of conduct that we should kind of aspire to, guidelines, I think that's fantastic. And certainly that one form, their advocacy work, I'm sure the Insight Association and other will adopt very similar things. I just worry about what it really, bad actors.
What it actually does, whether people actually adhere to those guidelines put forth. Well, look, you have to kind of know where the lines are as you proceed in any kind of a space. Like, know where the lines are and know what is expected of you, and then decision making comes in whether you're going to step out of the lines or go against the guidelines. But then that becomes a personal choice, because you know what expectations are, whether it's society's or industry's expectations. We all, that counts for us as human beings, right? Like when they're little kids, need to know what's expected of them, and if they aren't told what's expected of them, they go haywire, right? So SMR is acting like the parents, and it's up to all of the companies, whether they're children, teenagers, or adults, to decide if they want to step into those shoes.
Agreed. One last thing though that worries me about this is that that's great when you're in our family. People that are not in our family.
Don't give a.
They don't care. I
don't give a rat's ass.
The one and only time I was asked to speak at SMR at Congress, and and this was a topic I touched on. This was 15 years ago, probably. When Google surveys entered the market, and one of the questions was, "Are Google surveys going to, join SMR?" It's like, no. Why would they?
Yeah, why would
they would never do that. So we have to recognize that it's a continual. It's a challenge as new technologies and therefore new entrants come into the space, which is probably another good segue.
There you go.
To new products, and then we'll get into
and let's just do the caveat like that. Guess what's involved with these new product launches?
Right.
Let's just call it out. I don't think we have shared kind of a new product launch that is an AI assisted on some level in weeks now. So it's driving
months,
all the months, exactly. Yeah, it's driving all the innovation. So Ipsos introducing the collective innovation and AI-enabled service, helping brands to kind of discover and prioritize growth opportunities. Yeah. So
that does have non-AI stuff in it, though. That was pretty cool, right? There's qualitative, traditional qualitative. They're kind of pulling together different threads to have an innovation hub that utilizes lots of different data sources and methodologies, including good old traditional qualitative. So that was cool.
It's an AI. It's not an AI method of collecting research. It's an AI assist. It's an AI assist in discovering the growth ops, right?
Right, through all the data. Yes. Yeah.
And I think that's probably really an important point is, there's AI as a method of collecting data. There's AI as a method of synthesizing data. There's AI as a method of, examining, doing deep research into your research. Like the AI assist isn't obvious anymore. It's everywhere in all of those different facets. So how each company is deciding to leverage the tech, is what we should all be paying attention to. It's like, oh, that's a cool use case for it, and figure out what your company needs to do next. Because maybe you don't need the AI tool because you're a traditional ethnography company. However, maybe, having AI to be able to extract themes across all of your ethnographic research in the last 5 years is a super value added offering.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, I guess related note, Blue Yonder launched their Sprint AI for agile product testing. That's that whole speed and cost. It's delivering 24 hours. So quick turnaround. So that iterative agile approach, test and learn, test and learn, test and learn with cheap and fast. That's a trend we've seen for a long time. AI just makes it cheaper and faster. So, so hats off to them. And then Price Agent, the same thing, fast, affordable pricing studies across businesses of multiple sizes. So if you are a challenger brand on Amazon, right, or Etsy or whatever the case may be, and need to look at doing a pricing analysis for your product versus others, that would usually be pretty hard and expensive to do. They're making it relatively inexpensive to do that. So leveling the playing field. So that's cool too.
What's interesting about this is, or where my mind just went with this was, you remember a few years ago, I mean, we're talking not even 10 years ago, 8 years ago, I feel like in the late teens, everybody was talking about agile. Everyone wanted to say they had an agile method. And I remembered a few times thinking like, is this agile? It's still taking us weeks, like, is this really? And I think they were using the word for like, to mean flexible, right? Whereas product designers were like, no, agile means like you instantly respond and you can move faster. And it's all about kind of, iterating, whatever, but it was still hard to do that, certainly at scale, like be that agile, which to me is more about responsively changing. Anyway, what's interesting is that AI is allowing agility, yes, and faster, yes, but I think what's important for us to call out is there's also the expectation now of improved quality as a result. Like, and that's it's like, I don't know, it's just, yes, we can do it faster, but the ROI, because they're spending on it, the ROI is also like, the expectations are for that ROI to be solid. Like, we're not just doing fast, inexpensive research here. We're really dialing up what we expect in terms of quality. So I think all these are positioned to help with that.
I think so too. Well, and interested in the definition of quality, I would also argue now is depth. So where it was somewhat limited with just the automation component, the AI does allow for an augmentation of information and some exploratory contextual analysis that is missing when it's just a dashboard. So so that's part of that quality definition.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
All right, you want to, this one was a head scratcher.
So context for everyone. Okay. We're making a very rough segue into big tech developments this week, because the tech developments that were out there are the type that made Lenny and I pause big time. We're like, oh boy.
They're big ones.
They're big ones. And the reason why I think I want to explain to people, the reason why we're talking about them is for what is the signal of these big tech changes. And I really want you and I to kind of connect some of these dots about like why, right? So let's make this relevant to people. Why are these, especially these three, tech things being talked about? Let's connect dots for people. Anyway, that's just my big segue into, I think I found this, Mira Murati, who, was one of the brains behind OpenAI in the first place. She has created something called thinking machines. She has raised, it has a 10 billion valuation backed by top VC firms, including that Anderson Horowitz that we just talked about. So Bloomberg reported on this, but there's a lot of people reporting on this because she doesn't even really have a product yet.
Nope. That's the thing. Yes.
That's the thing. I just got chills when I talked about it. They are like betting on her for this concept of thinking machines, and pay attention. So if you are not following what she is doing, this is a big freaking deal. They're betting on her.
Big bet. Big bet. So the next generation, I think a comfortable assumption is it's the next generation of AI in some form or fashion. But applied in for that much money, 10 billion seed round, guys, seed round. So without a product that has been that we know of,
I know it's crazy. So I heard
it's game changing.
Yeah, I heard her speak at Qualtrics a few years ago. She was one of the thought leaders that they brought on stage. I think it was now 3 years ago, the first year I went to Qualtrics, and I was like jaw to the ground at the intelligence of this woman, and ready to just jump out of my seat and say I'm not worthy. Anyway, so extraordinary. I love seeing it. I can't wait to find out more about this thinking machine. So just make a note, people. Maybe set up your Google alert.
Yep. And we should point out too, there have been other examples of companies like that were the next big thing that never materialized. Something Leap company. They were supposed to do basically you ever seen the thing of the whale jumping out of the basketball in the gym, and the whale's jumping out? So it was supposed to be a visual thing. Billions and billions and billions put into that without a product to show. So hopefully it's not one of those things. So it's not a guarantee of success, but it's certainly a guarantee of the signal of where the interest lies. So yes.
Yes.
Right.
And people that are able to think, she is one of them, are able to think about, like right now, I feel like many of us are like, what else could it possibly do? Like, our brains get to a point where there's only so much we can envision. She's visionary. She was able to envision a world where OpenAI hits the scene and boom. So that's this visionary thinking that not everybody has. So anyway, all right.
Well, the name may be a hint. Thinking machines, I would have assumed that has to do with some type of new operating system, within technology that is like probably scary, because there's if you watch the Dune movies or read the Dune books, this whole idea of the Butlerian jihad thinking machines, right?
Anyways, I have to take my sweater off. It's making me sweat just thinking about it. So.
Anyway, interesting time. The other one, I found this unsurprising in many ways.
Yes. And we had some internal discussions here. My husband and I, Tim Lynch and I, talking about OpenAI is developing ChatGPT features. So speaking of OpenAI, ChatGPT features that are going to kind of rival Microsoft Office and the Google Workspace. So now imagine if you are one of the users to OpenAI, and now you're going to use it like, you know what? Yeah, let's have document creation. Let's have spreadsheets. Let's have our, email right from here. So whereas the other ones have incorporated AI into what they had, they're now going to
AI first.
Be AI first. And that's a whole, anyway, I actually got really excited to see this. I'm like, cool, because I always feel like I want to give Google a run for their money because like I always feel like, they've just been so dominant, and I like the idea of them seeing some competition. And I know that, the Google ecosystem versus the Microsoft ecosystem, it's been like one or the other. Are you Google or are you Microsoft, in the workplace? So I kind of like the idea that there's some added competition for those two. But also, when you think about world domination,
Right. Well, so, there are all these rumors that were going around, but the tension between Microsoft and OpenAI for a variety of reasons. Like, oh, well, here's one. Like, oh, thanks for your multi-billion dollars. Now, we're going to create a competitor to your flagship product. We'll see.
I know.
I must say, I've seen a couple outputs of charts and graphs generated in ChatGPT. And everybody knows that I'm more of a Perplexity and Grok user, but those charts and graphs look pretty damn good. And I thought maybe I need to give ChatGPT another try from that standpoint, because it was impressive what they could do.
Yeah, I feel like, I pretty much am ChatGPT first, even though I do like Perplexity and I have used other things. They have been in Notebook and all that, but it's my go-to for a lot of day-to-day things. And I feel like a month ago it was glitching on me too much and I was annoyed. It seems to have fixed some glitches, and now it seems to be solid presently, this June 26th.
right. As of this moment,
we're very good friends again. So but yeah, let's talk about that, because another move in this space where Apple is exploring acquiring Perplexity, and I'm like, Apple must be like, us too, like, and I'm like, all right, go on in there. You can go in the playground, play with.
Well, they've struggled with the AI strategy, which was always kind of surprising to me. The company that brought you Siri, right? I would have thought they would have been a leader, but no, with no shade, guys. It was just a little bit of surprise. And it makes sense. And Perplexity has done a really great job, not just from a search standpoint, but building tools into the platform that make it really usable from a productivity standpoint, et cetera, et cetera. So I certainly can see the value in doing that. So
let's make it, this is what I want to do. And we didn't talk about this ahead of time, but I really want to say, like, okay, we're watching these big players, and it's like, all right, we are going to connect dots. These are signals for us.
Yes.
And let's kind of riff on the why, because as I was sort of looking at these and I'm thinking, there's something about these large environments that sends a message to people in insights and analytics and data providers, data collectors.
Yes, it's systemic.
Yes. And so what does that mean for the businesses? It means, one thing that came to me is sort of the interaction that end users have with all of the research platforms and tools and everything. There is this desire to kind of simplify and bring things together and have this ease of interoperability.
Yes.
That is very important, right? Because why is all of this happening? It's not just about the tech players moving their money around and making financial gains, sure, but it's pointing out something else on a macro level. That, anyway, that's my take, is I think that this is all going to lead to a different expectation that end users of research will have for how they interact with our platforms, programs, survey tools, quality scale platforms.
100%
needs to be seamless.
100% agree with you. That's when I think about, these are Steve Phillips had a great, from Zappy, gave a great presentation a few years ago on at IEX on the platformification of research. And this is before the AI era, right? And the idea was, who was going to be the Microsoft Office or the Google of research? Well, it's not going to be it's going to be one of these companies that, from a agentic flow connection standpoint, that's the hub. That is going to be the hub. So you will execute these things from, a prompt that you have embedded into your OpenAI Office solution, for instance, right? That's what they're angling for. And who's going to win? Don't know. It may wind up being just like it is today. There's 4 or 5 that dominate the market. But everything else will be simply orbiting around them.
And if you are, I could be wrong. But if you are a company that has a platform, cloud-based, whatever you've got going on, you have to be thinking about where it's housed, I don't have the right language for it. You have to be thinking about how you're building your infrastructure so that it has this power behind it. Isn't, that makes sense. I'm like, it's like super fragmented in my head because now I'm talking too much tech and it hurts my brain a little bit. But these are all the things that the developers of these platforms need to be thinking about. Big picture is where is everything living? Where is it housing? Which clouds does it operate on? Which operating systems? Which
Well, your wonderful hubby just made a comment. Apple AI seems to be going the BASF way. They don't make the thing; they make the thing that everyone uses to make AI things. Hardware and silicone is what many AI apps use to code on. Agree. So there's NVIDIA, right? For instance, NVIDIA, Intel. The hardware infrastructure plus the power resources to do that. Hence why Apple's invested in nuclear power plants, right? Microsoft. But and then there's the cloud infrastructure, Amazon, Microsoft. Then there's the code, but the code is where the utility and the monetization comes in. So everything else is a cost center to support the development of the code, and these are going to be the platforms that the code is going to be deployed on and integrated into overall. So.
It just has me thinking about the new entrants to the industry, and these are people that think that way, right? So many of the new entrants aren't like, they didn't come out of the research world and say, I want to develop a new product. They came out of this coding space and they're like, we can do it this way. Right. So that's why those competitors are to be kind of looked at with a different lens, because they're not necessarily, they didn't come at this through the eye of a researcher.
It's an engineering problem, not a research problem.
Really interesting. So I guess all of these research companies should be investing in the engineers they bring on board at this point also.
Right. And everyone pay attention. I would caution anyone though to think that that war is still there. Who's going to win? I don't think there is going to be one winner. And it's probably a good segue, the Menlo Venture. So some recommended readings, guys. 2025 State of Consumer AI. That was looking at AI adoption, but there's some posts in there as well around kind of the companies that so this infrastructure thing is still a big deal. Look, you can't bet against Grok because you can't bet against Tesla, because Tesla is going to have the real world data by just because that's what they built. They built cars that record everything for them to function correctly. So that's a very significant advantage that they will have. OpenAI has they were the first out of the gate and have the most integrations, but you can't discount Meta. Even though they seem to be struggling, you surely can't discount Google or Microsoft because of just their sheer size. So stay nimble. Don't get wedded to any one thing either, because we don't know who's going to win.
More on this Menlo Ventures report. So I looked at it this morning, and then dug in, and there's some interesting sections of it where they talk about white space opportunities. So for anybody who's kind of like wants to dig in there, because you want there's some ripe for innovation thinking in there. But also it talks a lot about usage and how, consumers have caught up, which we've talked about in the last few weeks also. But one of the things they're saying, very high usage for millennials, in particular millennial parents. Like, you can get to this point. I thought that was really interesting. So millennial parents turning to Gen AI for kind of that assist. Anyway, so if you work with consumers and you want to understand your consumers, that's like, there's one reason to dig into this report, and that's the kind of the tech business development, strategic thinking we need to do. Also, if you market to consumers, there's some really interesting stuff about consumer usage of these platforms and what is changing like real time right now. Point in case, my daughter is babysitting, and the mother, at the end of the day, they're having some exchange about different things, such as, going out in the sun and potty training and disciplinary behaviors and all that. And the mother keeps sharing with my daughter ChatGPT answers to her questions. So when my daughter asks the mother questions, the mother is asking generative AI and giving that information to my daughter. And it's a fascinating concept for me that is happening.
It's a little scary based on what we covered last week about the reliance on AI limiting your cognitive abilities. So.
But if say your target market are millennial mothers, you need to understand this. You need to understand this dynamic of why are they trusting that? Who don't they trust? To me, that's a big thing. And what is the need gap in their information? How can brands fill that gap and help educate these women who are looking for intelligence
as the trusted resource, trusted partner, trusted source?
Anyway, super cool report. I really liked it, and I'm sure you can find more. It was analysis of AI adoption across 5,000 U.S. adults. Anyway.
Well, I want to run through these other ones again. Suggested reading links, guys. These really are.
Why don't you take these two that are linked? I think take this first one because I didn't read this yet. The Shaper. Go ahead and talk about that one.
Dynamic company. It's just a good think piece on why Insights teams struggle with AI, so some internal research that they did, and some strategies for high performance. So if you're still scratching your head of what the hell, what do we do and how does it fit within the research organization, it's a little more focused suggestions there. So thank you to the friends at Sharper. This
really, the next three, this is a huge topic we should have left 10 minutes for.
We should, because it's all pretty darn interesting.
so here's what's happening. We've got a LinkedIn post, Carolyn Hyde, talking about AI's dual impact, right? So it's partially driving workforce reduction while at the same time fueling record compensation deals. So what's happening in this blog post, you can see some people are getting big bucks right now for their AI expertise, and some people are either going to lose jobs or potentially not get hired at the entry level. So there's two things happening in this space. So her blog post really articulately talks about that. Then we've got a read for that I think that you had found from 80,000 Hours, How Not to Lose Your Job to AI. So skills that you need to kind of future-proof that. And then I did want to call out, I didn't mention it this week, but because I just saw it this morning, but Kristen Luck wrote a thought piece about the experience gap and how AI could disrupt in our industry the path to kind of professional mastery, which is part of this. So these three reads in a row, take them all in. Take in Carolyn Hyde's post, the the How Not to Lose Your Job, and then Kristen Luck's think piece, because it tells the picture of what we need to do to make sure that the future of the industry is secure and that we are raising leaders and thinkers, from those entry-level hires, young professionals in their 20s, and helping them get to mastery so that they can get to where many people in the industry already are.
And what is mastery, right? I would argue that we keep coming back to the same ideas, and even the comment about the mom, right? That critical thinking. That's top there, right? Critical thinking, problem solving, the ability to ask questions, to think through a problem, to think through second and third order implications, and not just hypothetically, but with a sense of mastery. We've seen this before. Those are those core skill sets. And there is still that piece, goes back to our very beginning of our conversation, the hug, human to human, intuition, contact, understanding. Those are all things that I think are important in a knowledge worker, white collar type of world to focus on to create that. And the benefit may be, and I heard early on, Altman had said that we would see, the next generation of billionaires that were like one person companies, right? Type of thing. So we may see that as well. There's going to be a lot of opportunity for specialization and winning relationships because you're smart. Utilize these tools to compete effectively against large organizations. So that could be really interesting as well. And that last thing, when we talk this, Gartner predicts, but over 60% of agentic AI projects will be canceled by 2027.
You know why this is a good bookend? Because first of all, everyone is like, AI agents, AI agents, AI agents. That is where so much mental energy is going. But most of them will either fail or be canceled. Most of the efforts in this space are going to fail or be canceled. And that doesn't mean we shouldn't do that.
Right.
Doesn't
it's
mean
adoption.
Right? It's just what's going to happen. Everybody's got to try these things out, see what's effective, but you have to have that in your strategy. You have to have these projects right now, or you won't break free with the one that's going to win. That's how I interpreted this whole thing. Gartner has a lot of events coming up in the next 6 months that I'm going to tune into as best I can, also to kind of watch this particular trend. But yeah, there's a lot of whether things work or whether there's ethical risks, whether there's governance issues. There are going to be reasons why a lot of these projects don't succeed. So, but it doesn't mean don't try, because 40% of them will. Right,
and if it can add value, with value being, kind of your own definition, kind of, wiggly there, but if it delivers value, it will succeed. If it doesn't deliver value or makes people's lives harder or more complicated, then it won't. So encourage you to think about where's the value creation at the front end. And then to your point, try it. So we'll see. All right. We will not be here next Friday.
We will not be here next Friday. We will be celebrating, for those of you tracking the dates, the 4th of July. So Greenbook, actually, if you're looking for us, Greenbook office is closed the week of 4th of July. It is our way of thanking our team for traveling on weekends to all of our events throughout the year. This is sort of, we get a pass on a couple of work days so that we all, freely travel on weekends to and from our events. So we will not be in office next week. We will be checking emails, but we will not be live next Friday.
We will not be live, nor will we be pre-recorded. So
nor will we be pre-recorded.
There will not be an exchange next week. But if you miss us so much, like and subscribe on YouTube, and you can go back through, the whole. You're right. I mean, so what is this episode like? Bajillion.
I know. I just can't believe we keep doing this. I can't believe we keep doing it, and we have no intention of stopping.
We don't.
Yeah. No.
Actually, really interesting. I did see just today that YouTube is rolling out a agentic search within YouTube. I haven't tried it yet. It's supposed to summarize the videos. So if somebody, you want to go through the entire our entire catalog and do a synthesis of all of the topics. And share that with us. We will showcase you, because I think it would be really fascinating. So
no, absolutely. Yeah, I shared that. Anyway, I don't have to talk about sharing it with the SEO team. Not relevant to this particular conversation. Misha, how are you? It's good to see you.
Thank you. Yeah, hit that like and subscribe button. We appreciate it.
That's great. That's great. And I love when people pop up like that. It's really good to see you. And I'm glad, she was one of our first AI speakers, actually. She came to, I think it was our first AI event, Aisha Lee. So good to see you here. And and we'll see you all in 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Everybody be safe, enjoy, stay cool, and or warm. Guess depending on where you are in the world. If you're in Australia, all my Australian friends like, it's cold. Oh, come on, you're in Australia. It's not cold.
And get those hugs in. Get those hugs in. I challenge each of you to make one hug last for at least several seconds, if not 20 seconds, if not 3 minutes. Go for 6 minutes if you can afford it. So
and kid hugs are the best. Kid hugs, spouse hugs, family hugs.
All of them. All of them.
All right, everybody, take care.
Bye.
Bye.
I did peace out.